Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk is live and direct on a Wednesday. Happy Hump Day, one and all. Thanks for being with us on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and, of course, on our streaming video channels, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube and WIBW News on Facebook. However, wherever, whenever you're catching the program today, thanks so much for being a part of 580 Sports Talk. My name is Dan Lucero. I'll be with you for the next 3 hours here until 6 o'clock with a jam-packed Wednesday show. Spencer Dupuis will join me for a bit later on. Brendan Dzwierzynski is off today. He's got Washburn basketball tonight. The final week of the regular season for the Ichabods. They're at Lee Arena. Your last chance to see the Bods at home. Well, until the NCAA tournament, when Washburn men probably going to host the Central Region. But your last chance to see the Bods, men and women, at Lee Arena this week. Big rivalry game tonight. Pitt State in town. Brendan will have the call on our sister station, your home of the Ichabods, Country 106.9. Pregame coverage at 5:15. The women's game will tip off at 5:30. The men's game to follow. So that is where Brendan is tonight. And maybe some of you are planning to get out to Lee Arena and see some hoops tonight. But if you're not able to make it out, you can always catch Brendan on Country 106.9. Tonight here on 580, we got some K-State basketball coming your way while we're doing housekeeping here and letting you know what's on tap for our evening following our 3 hours of sports talk together. 7 o'clock pregame, 8 o'clock tip from the CU Event Center. I think I'm finally getting used to not calling it the Coors Event Center. They took the corporate name off of it. It's just the CU Event Center in Boulder. First time since 2011. K-State at Colorado in men's basketball. We'll have the call from the K-State Sports Network from Learfield. This is a sickos-only affair tonight in Boulder. An 8 o'clock tip on a weeknight. Two of the worst teams in the Big 12. We'll get to some of that a little bit later on in the show. But as I mentioned, we're full of good stuff to talk about today. The Kansas City Chiefs are in the early stages of extension talks with all-pro cornerback Trent McDuffie. And I have been open to the thought, more than open, I think I've been supportive to the idea that the Chiefs should consider a trade of McDuffie this offseason because he is the most valuable and realistic trade piece that the Chiefs have, because they're not trading Patrick Mahomes. He could return the sort of draft capital that the Chiefs lack and could speed along the, you don't really call it a full roster rebuild. That's not what the Chiefs are doing because, again, they have Patrick Mahomes. You're not rebuilding as long as that guy is around. But the thought of being able to add draft capital is appealing. Chiefs don't have a ton of picks this year. They have number 9 overall. The chance to add another first-round pick or an early day 2 pick in a trade that would also clear $13 or so million in cap space, it's appealing. The thought is appealing. But the more I've thought about it, the less I'm sure that that's a path the Chiefs can really afford to go down. So we'll break down the pros and the cons. And what I want to hear from you is how you feel about it today. That's my big question of the day. And want to hear you weigh in on our text line, 785-272-9429, or in the live chat on our YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk, the name of the YouTube channel. What do you want the Chiefs to do with Trent McDuffie? Do you want to see them work out a contract extension? Do you want to see them trade him? Do you think maybe option C, just play out the string? He plays on the fifth-year option and the $13-odd million cap hit and go from there? How do you think the Chiefs should handle moving forward with Trent McDuffie? That's the big question of the day. So your thoughts are encouraged. Again, 785-272-9429, the text line, and 580 Sports Talk, the YouTube channel for the live chat. We'll also get into some mock draft because it is Wednesday. That means it's our second installment of Mock Draft Wednesday. We've got 4 mock drafts to look at today. Couple of one-round mocks from names you know. Bucky Brooks, NFL.com, Mel Kiper of ESPN. Also another Pro Football Focus 3-round mock, and a 3-round mock from our very own Brendan Dzwierzynski, who's left it as a little bit of a treat for us to discuss. So we got some more mock drafts to discuss on the show today. Round 2, Mock Draft Wednesday 2.0. You know how everybody does that, like you level up the version. The next version of your mock draft is always Mock Draft 2.0. It's not really how like versions like advancement works. Typically you go like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, you know, things like that. But no, everybody just goes 1.0, 2.0, so on and so forth. So that's what we're going to do too. This is Mock Draft Wednesday 2.0. We'll get to that in the 4 o'clock hour. Going to talk some Royals today as well. The Royals have shown a preference the last 2 years for acquiring hitters with a certain skill set. And on the one hand, I understand the vision for how it can help lead to more offense for the boys in blue in 2026. But I also am a little concerned it could backfire. And that instead, it could mean less contribution from some players that the Royals are kind of counting on, not in the middle of their order or anything, but guys who are being counted on to supplement the known star-level sources of offense that the Royals have, Witt, Garcia, Pasquantino, Perez. But it's very obvious this is something that the Royals are looking at and saying this is something that we value. So we'll get into that a little bit as well as continue our countdown to Royals opening day. 31 days from Royals opening day today. And the Royals have a number 31 this year. So we'll get to that in a little while. Also, our guest today at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour is Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com. We have got our Wildcat Wrap-Up presented by Tallgrass Windows and Doors coming up at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. We'll get some early thoughts on the K-State men's basketball coaching search, maybe a little Batcat talk with Fitz, anything and everything Purple Power Cat related coming up at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour with Fitz. Plus, we got our headlines. We got another round of What Is Wrong With You. We're going to choose our final weekly winner for the month because tomorrow and Friday, semifinals and finals for the month of February in What Is Wrong With You. So we got to pick one more semifinalist, and we'll do that. Our winner today will be on to tomorrow's semifinals. And as I mentioned, your interaction with the program, you can hit us up on the text line, 785-272-9429. That is 785-272-9429. You can also hop in the live chat. If you're watching on YouTube today, you know about the live chat probably by now. 580 Sports Talk's the name of the channel. Go subscribe if you have not yet. We're live every day that we're live on the radio on 580 WIBW. And as we are streaming on video, there is a live chat, a window next to the video if you're watching on your browser, or below the video if you're watching on your phone, or next to the video if you're watching on your tablet. And you can interact with me, rest of the hosts, your fellow listeners, in that live chat on YouTube. So we invite and encourage you to make that your own and help grow the 580 Sports Talk community in the live chat. See Vance and Mark H., a couple of our regulars in today. Hello, gentlemen. Look forward to hearing more from you and others as we go along on this Wednesday. Brett Veach spoke with the media yesterday at the NFL Scouting Combine, which got underway in earnest today. And we talked a little bit about some of the more interesting things he said on yesterday's show. One thing he also mentioned when speaking to the media yesterday was that job number one for him right now at this stage of the offseason is speaking with Trent McDuffie regarding the possibility of a contract extension. It was one of the first questions he was asked, and this was the quote: "We've had a lot of dialogue with Trent last spring and last summer. He's first out of the gate tomorrow. So we're looking forward to get with him. Obviously, Trent's a great player, and we'll see what we can do there, but we'd certainly love to have Trent back for the long term. That was Brett Veach yesterday. So by first out of the gate tomorrow, he meant today. So the Chiefs and Trent McDuffie, we can assume, met today to reopen talks about a long-term contract extension. Veach alluded to it in his quote from yesterday. The two sides had some discussions last year. We were of the mind in a portion of the offseason that it might get done last spring or last summer or even last fall around the time the George Karlaftis extension got done, but it never did. The market had been set for defensive backs. Sauce Gardner had gotten his money to reset the market. And we kind of thought Trent McDuffie would come in around that kind of money, but the two sides could not come to an agreement. And Trent McDuffie played on the fourth year of his rookie contract last year. Now he enters the fifth year, which he has because he's a first-round pick, and the Chiefs naturally picked up the fifth-year option for a guy who's already been an all-pro in his career. The cap number, and I want to make sure I have it exactly correct, that Trent McDuffie will play on in 2026 if, for whatever reason, there is not a change in his status, a contract extension from the Chiefs or from somebody else, the cap number is $13.6 million. That is, as it stands, the ninth highest cap hit on the 2026 roster, though he's got a chance to move up on the list when the Chiefs inevitably cut Juwan Taylor. $13.6 million. So that's like option A. Chiefs let McDuffie play out the string, $13.6 million to the cap. He gets to free agency next year. Chiefs try to negotiate with him before the start of the new league year to keep him off the market, but he could hit the market, and the Chiefs could lose him for a comp pick. It would be a good comp pick, but a comp pick. That's an option that exists. More likely, it is that something decisive happens because the Chiefs tend to be pretty decisive about these kinds of things. And there have been rumors out there that Trent McDuffie would be in demand should the Chiefs decide to shop him, that he could return a first-round pick or an early second-round pick, at least. If not, maybe something extra on day 3 if the Chiefs were willing to kick in maybe a future 6th or a 5th. Maybe they could move up around with a kicker thrown in there. Not a literal kicker in terms of the sweetening the draft, a sweetener. Let's use that term. It's less confusing. So there's some rumors out there, and we've had that discussion about that as a possibility. But let's really break it down. What would it mean if the Chiefs extended Trent McDuffie? What would it mean if the Chiefs traded Trent McDuffie? If you're the Chiefs and you extend Trent McDuffie, you maintain on your roster for the long term an all-pro caliber player. He is a smart player, has always been known for being particularly cerebral. He's one of those guys that really stood out, even in a 2022 draft class full of guys. I remember Mitch Holtz coming on with us during training camp of that year and just raving about the football IQ collectively of the 2022 rookie class. And boy, did that turn out to be prescient. Whole bunch of good, smart football players in that 2022 class. Transformative class, one of the best in Chiefs history. But Trent McDuffie stood out particularly as being the head of the class, not just because he was the first player drafted by the Chiefs that year. They moved up in the draft into the high 20s to get him. But because of his football IQ. So you are getting a smart, a cerebral player, a versatile player who can play inside and outside, who has been an all-pro as a slot corner, but can also start on the outside. And for a defense whose leaders are obvious at the other two levels, but also aging. Chris Jones has more football behind him than he has ahead of him. You maintain on your roster a team leader and core piece for the long term. These are all things we were saying about Trent McDuffie last year when it looked like they were going to get an extension done. The other bonus, if you do the deal, if you do the extension, you work the salary cap a little bit so that Trent McDuffie's cap number for 2026 isn't $13.6 million, even though he'll be making more than that per year. You futz around with the numbers a little bit. You get to, converting some of it to signing bonus and backloading it a bit, and you get the cap number down to something workable. Say like $6 or $7 million. Like if I go back to 2025 for the Denver Broncos, because they just signed their star cornerback, Patrick Surtain, to a long-term deal. The first year of his extension last year for the Broncos, his cap number was $8.3 million. And if you're thinking that McDuffie's deal is going to come in somewhere maybe a little south of Surtain's rookie extension, that's probably not correct, because Surtain got his extension right away. He got $24 million average annual value. Maybe it looks more like a Sauce Gardner type of deal, where Gardner, and again, I want to make sure I have the details right, but Spotrac is killing me right now. Also, it helps if you actually know his real first name. Like Sauce Gardner got $30.1 million. So let's say you come in, if you're McDuffie, somewhere in that closer to the Surtain average annual value than the Gardner average annual value, then the cap number comes in around that $6, $7, $8 million range. A little bit more amenable for the Chiefs. Allows them to be more flexible. Allows them to spend a little bit more this offseason. As close as they are to the cap right now as we speak, every little bit helps. So that's the benefit of a McDuffie extension. Not only do you keep a really good player and a team leader, you also give yourself a little space to maneuver under the cap this year. But the question for McDuffie is, if you keep him, what is he? If he's just a really outstanding slot corner, are you then overpaying for a luxury player? Because the Chiefs are already doing that elsewhere, right? They're overpaying for a luxury player at right. Overpaying is not maybe the right way to put this. They are paying big dollars for players at luxury positions. I don't want to say overpaid. I think Trey Smith, as the right guard for the Chiefs, is compensated appropriately relative to the market at right guard. But when you're giving a right guard that much money, that means you are giving a right guard a lot of money. That is a luxury position to have an elite player at. Is slot corner a luxury position to have an elite player at? Even if he is elite there, is that where he's going to be for the long haul? Do the Chiefs view him as more of an outside cornerback? Because I think Trent McDuffie has some problems as a full-time outside cornerback. Big receivers eat him for lunch. He does not play the deep ball very well, especially not against big receivers. And look, he's not a big corner himself. Like, he's not built like Richard Sherman, right? But if he's just exceptional in the slot, how valuable is that skill set relative to the skill set of a guy like Patrick Surtain, who's elite on the outside? Or Sauce Gardner, who has been, though he wasn't really great in 2026 or 2025, truth be told, he's proven to be an elite outside cornerback, either on the boundary or the field side. And crucially, what does Trent McDuffie think? Does Trent McDuffie think he ought to get paid like Sauce Gardner? I don't know that he should. But he's been an all-pro. That's not nothing. So how valuable does Trent McDuffie think his skill set is? How valuable do the Chiefs think McDuffie's skill set is? And what do they think he is? Do they think the best version of their team has him in the slot primarily or on the outside primarily? Because I think he's more valuable as a slot corner, personally. So that's a question for the talent evaluators. That's a question for the Chiefs' own internal scouting. How good a handle do they have on how good Trent McDuffie is, or how he best benefits the Chiefs? At which position he most benefits the Chiefs? So those are that's the argument for extending Trent McDuffie. If they trade him, you clear $13.6 million against the cap. Right off the bat. $13.6 million you clear. Fifth-year option is off the cap, and he's not on the team anymore. You receive necessary draft capital in return, maybe even a late first-round pick. This is maybe not a draft chock full of elite players, but there are a lot of good football players in this draft. And the opportunity to get another first-round talent for a Chiefs team that needs to get younger and needs to find more elite talent, that's appealing. Particularly because, as we've sort of talked about and kicked around here these last couple of weeks on the show, Chiefs actually have a lot of areas of need. They need a starting edge. They need a starting defensive tackle. They need RB1. They probably need wide receiver 1. They need, incidentally, some help at corner. So there are a lot of needs the Chiefs have, and if they get another first-round pick in return for Trent McDuffie, they get a chance to address one of those needs. But addressing one of those needs would mean worsening another need. Here's who the Chiefs have at defensive back for 2026 under contract. And if you're thinking, well, this might not be particularly a pretty overview, you would probably be correct. Here's who's under contract for 2026 right now as things stand at cornerback. Trent McDuffie, Christian Fulton, Noel Williams, Shamari Connor, Kevin Knowles, Melvin Smith Jr. That's who's under contract for the Chiefs at cornerback. Now, Connor's listed as a cornerback by Spotrac, plays a lot of slot, plays some safety. He's a bit of a Swiss Army knife type player. So is Chris Roland Wallace, who's listed as a safety here. He and Jaden Hicks and a gentleman named Tanner McAllister are the only safeties under contract for the Chiefs. Josh Williams is a free agent. Najee Johnson's a free agent. And I know most fans won't be too sad to see those two go if indeed they do. But also Jalen Watson is a free agent. So if you trade Trent McDuffie, you're left with Fulton, Connor, Williams, Knowles. Those are your cornerbacks on the roster. How you feel about that? Not great, right? And I'm an optimist when it comes to Noel Williams. I think he's going to be a good player. You ready to start him on the outside with Christian Fulton next year? More of Shamari Connor in the slot? Go and draft a corner? Do you all of a sudden lock yourself into having to do that? Because that's just it, right? Can't just be 4 guys. Now you got to go get somebody. Who are you going to go get? You're going to shoehorn yourself into having to draft a corner, which, depending on how your offseason goes, you might be shoehorned into having to draft a wide receiver, or I think they have to draft a running back. Maybe not Jeremiyah Love, but they're going to have to draft somebody. Maybe they put themselves in a position where they have to pay Jalen Watson. And I like Jalen Watson. I do. Jalen Watson's a good player. I would be disappointed to see Jalen Watson go. I would. His projected value by Spotrac, the suggested market value for him is about $12.5 million a year. You pay Jalen Watson $12.5 million a year without Trent McDuffie on the roster? Is that a guy you're willing to go to that number for? What if somebody goes bigger? There's not a lot of good corners on the market. He might be the best. To be completely honest, I think he is the best. All due respect to Nashawn Wright's a good player. Alontae Taylor's had some moments. Josh Jobe was pretty good in the Super Bowl for the Seahawks, but it is a grim list of cornerbacks. Jalen Watson will probably get beyond that $12.5 million. What if the Chiefs lose that bidding war? And now you've traded McDuffie and you don't bring Watson back, then what do you do? So I had talked myself into the thought of trading McDuffie as the season was wrapping up because I do like the idea of having more draft capital to get younger to address some of the holes on this roster. But I'm not entirely sure it's super appealing to create a new hole because that's what you do when you trade McDuffie. Because now you're looking at, again, Noel Williams has to start. Christian Fulton has to be healthy. And then you have to go and get somebody. And if you don't bring Jalen Watson back, if you do bring him back, you're probably overpaying him. And if you don't, Reek Woolen, Cam Taylor-Britt, Roger McCreary, are you psyched over any of those guys? So the more I think about it, the more I go back to the idea of, look, he's not a perfect player. And I do think he is a little bit more limited than maybe we thought he was coming into 2025. We're talking about Trent McDuffie here. But at his best, he can still be really, really good. And I think that keeping him as part of this Chiefs core still makes a lot of sense. Particularly, you end up losing Brian Cook this offseason, which is entirely possible. Depends on how much money the Chiefs want to give him, how much the market will bear. Do you want to completely overhaul that secondary room? Who's going to be the leader? If Cook walks and you trade McDuffie, who's your leader in your secondary? Who leads that group? Not Jaden Hicks. Steve Spagnuolo doesn't trust him. Not Christian Fulton. He's only been on the team a year. Not Noel Williams. He's not ready for that. Who leads that group? I understand the arguments for trading McDuffie, but the more I think about him, the more I think, I think you do the extension. I think you find a number that makes both sides happy. You do the extension. You're going to create a little cap room in the process of doing so. And you're set at one corner spot for the next 4 or 5 years. And it doesn't force you to do something this offseason. You're not forced to, because, okay, you bring him back and you go into next year with him and Fulton and Noel Williams. You feel a little bit better about that because you've got a player of Trent McDuffie's caliber leading the way. And then you can do what you always seem to do if you're the Chiefs and go find somebody in the 4th round who can really play, or the 3rd round who can play right away. But I want to hear from you. What would you do? Put your Brett V chat on. Do you extend McDuffie? Do you trade McDuffie? Or do you let him play out the 5th-year option? I want to hear your opinion. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. You can also interact in the live chat on our YouTube stream. 580 Sports Talk is the name of the channel. Hit us up in there. What will you do with Trent McDuffie? We'll get your thoughts next. We're going to talk a little Royals baseball later this hour. Mock Draft Wednesday coming up at the 4 o'clock hour. Tim Fitzgerald coming up bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. Jam-packed Wednesday show. Glad you're here. 580 Sports Talk. 3:37 on 580 Sports Talk. We're just getting started on the program today. Question of the day: what should the Chiefs do with Trent McDuffie? Contract extension? Seek a trade? Let him play out the fifth year? Text the show with your thoughts, 785-272-9429. Get at us in the live chat on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk. You can comment on the Facebook stream as well. If you're watching on Facebook, WIBW News is the name of the channel. You can hop in the comments, say hello in there, and give your thoughts. Vance is in team contract extension in the YouTube comments, believes that that is the way to go for McDuffie. The thing with the Chiefs and defensive backs historically is that they have not kept the defensive backs that they have developed. You look in recent history, how many of them have made it to second contracts with the Chiefs? L'Jarius Sneed didn't. Charvarius Ward didn't. Rashad Fenton didn't. Chiefs are more than willing to let those players go, and they believe in their ability to develop the next one. Develop the next L'Jarius Sneed or Rashad Fenton or Charvarius Ward. They didn't draft Ward. They got him in a trade, but same difference. The difference with Trent McDuffie is he's a first-round pick. And none of those guys were first-round picks, right? There's a difference between saying, yeah, we feel good about, we can find a guy, a diamond in the rough in the third or the fourth or the fifth round, and we believe Dave Merritt does a great job, which he does. We believe Spags' system makes cornerbacks comfortable, and we can develop our own guy. And maybe the Chiefs feel great about Kevin Knowles. Or they think Chris Roland Wallace can step into a bigger role next year. And I think both guys have flashed at the NFL level. Those guys just aren't out there getting cardio in. I think I've seen good things. I saw good things in 2025 from both of those guys. Roland Wallace in particular I like. I think there's a role for him. I don't know what it looks like. But I think there's a role for Chris Roland Wallace. I think he's an NFL player. Those guys aren't first-round picks. In fact, I think both Roland Wallace and Knowles were UDFAs. Undrafted free agents. I know some of you don't like when I use the abbreviation, so I try to put you on game. McDuffie was a first-round pick, so it's an entirely different thing. And even we know from our NFL insider, Matt Verderam, who's got some connections with the Chiefs and has some sources with the Chiefs, he's told us on this show that that's not like a hard and fast rule for the Chiefs front office, that they really did want to re-sign Charvarius Ward. 49ers just came in with a better offer, an offer that kind of blew away what the Chiefs were prepared to offer, and so that was that. So the presumption that Chiefs are going to let a defensive back get to the end of the contract and then, just roll another one off the assembly line, I don't necessarily believe that dictates the path forward with McDuffie. I think he is a unique case because of the draft capital the Chiefs expended. And not just the draft capital, they traded up to get him. You don't go up in the draft to go get a guy if you don't envision that player as a long-term piece. And Trent McDuffie has not only done nothing to show he shouldn't be a long-term piece, he's probably outperformed the draft position a little bit. How many late first-round corners are first-team All-Pros ever? And McDuffie did that in year 3. Even if I think that long-term, for the bulk of snaps, he's better served on the inside as the primary slot defender, and that the Chiefs should have their eye on strengthening the outside. And I do actually think that Noel Williams can credibly start on the outside next year. I think I will be okay if they start with him on one side, Christian Fulton on the other. Like he was good at the end of last year. The games didn't matter, so nobody was paying attention, but he played really well those last few weeks. You go into that next year with those three as your starting quarterbacks. Obviously, you're going to have to do something about the depth because right now, behind those three, it's just Kevin Knowles. But I could go to battle with that, especially if it means less Shamari Connor in the slot where he's completely miscast. That's more than anything, maybe the fix the Chiefs need to make that'll benefit McDuffie and the rest of the back end. We're going to take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, we're still looking for your thoughts on the text line, 785-272-9429, what you would do about the Trent McDuffie situation if it was your call to make, also in the live chat on our YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, we update you on some Cactus League action. Royals looking for a dub in the Cactus League this afternoon. They're halfway to one of those right now after Jonathan Heasley blew the game yesterday. We'll update you on that and the skill set that the Royals think will keep the line moving in 2026. That's next on 580 WIBW. Might have spoken too soon on that Royals score. They were winning when I went to break. They are no longer winning. Playing today in surprise against the Seattle Mariners, and Jose Cuas having a tough one. Just gave up a 3-run homer to Mariners catcher Jackson Reitz. He had also given up earlier in the inning a home run to a gentleman named Brennan Davis. So tough one for the UPS man, Jose Cuas. He's given up 4 runs here in the 6th, and a 3-1 Royals lead has turned to a 5-3 deficit. Bobby Witt Jr. doubled and scored on a Vinny Pasquantino double in the 1st inning. Royals also have RBI from Cameron Meisner and Luca Tresh. Noah Cameron got the start on the bump today. 2 innings, no runs on a hit and a walk with a pair of strikeouts. Scoreless inning with 2 Ks for newly acquired reliever Mason Black as he bids for a bullpen spot. His bid going a little better than Jose Cuas's today. So 5-3 Mariners in front in the top of the 6th. Royals trying to get back to 500 in Cactus League play in the early stages. The big question mark for the Royals going into this season is offense, just like it was last year, and the question wasn't answered effectively enough. Just like it was the year before, and it was probably worse. They were probably a worse offensive team in 2014, at least 2024, rather. At least last year, you had the Michael Garcia breakout to supplement what Salvi and Vinny and Bobby were doing. But it still wasn't nearly enough offense for the Kansas City Royals. So how do they score more runs in 2026? What does that look like? And that's a question mark in and of itself because we don't know really how the K is going to play with the fences in. Oh, we think we know. We think we have an idea. You know, you take past year's data and you extrapolate it, but Kauffman Stadium is going to be a little bit more home run friendly, at least on its face, in 2026. How does that change the Royals' offensive approach? How does that change the way games unfold? How does it change the value of a run in a game at Kauffman Stadium? So that's a question that'll be answered when the rubber meets the road and you start playing the games. But it's clear that the Royals, in identifying players that they have wanted to add to their lineup the last couple of years, have identified one trait in particular that they believe is going to give them a chance to, if I may borrow a term from a previous Royals championship team, keep the line moving. And look, this is not a team that's going to keep the line moving like the 2015 Royals kept the line moving, because that team didn't have a lot of home run thump, right? That Royals team finished the year with 95 home runs. Like we're talking about a team out of the 80s. They were a miracle, the 2015 Royals, in the best way. Like a miracle, not a fluke. They were good, and they deserved their championship. But they were, for a team to have played that way in the slugging era of baseball that we have known virtually all of the 2000s is kind of miraculous. Just a beautiful outlier of a championship offense. This 2026 team, you've got Vinny coming off a 30-homer season. Salvi hits his 30. Bobby's going to get his 30. Jack Caglianone's got 30-homer ceiling. One whole lot of guys are going to hit you 30 on the 2015 Royals. So that's one way in which, obviously, it's different. But the Royals have also identified, okay, if we have a hitter whose power is not their calling card, what we want to see, what the Royals want to see, hitters who don't swing at bad pitches. And that's really simple to say, right? Yeah, it's good to swing at strikes and not swing at balls. Duh. But the Royals have brought Isaac Collins to the team in the trade this year with Milwaukee. They brought Jonathan India in last year. They brought Lane Thomas in as a free agent. And what those three guys all have in common, they are above average when it comes to a stat called chase rate, which is a very simple stat. How often do you swing at pitches that are out of the strike zone? The average for big league hitters sits around 28 to 29%. So almost 30% of the time, almost 3 out of every 10 pitches outside of the strike zone, a major league hitter is going to swing at. And, I mean, if you've watched major league pitchers, you know sometimes it's really, really hard to lay off. Those dudes are spinning some nasty stuff. But Collins and Thomas and India the year before that have been acquired and are guys that do not swing outside the zone. Isaac Collins had an elite, almost top of the charts chase rate last year. He only swung at 18.5% of pitches outside of the strike zone. Also right around that number, Jonathan India. Maikel Garcia, also a top 10 percentile of major league players, only chasing 20.8% of pitches outside the zone. Lane Thomas last year, and it was a small sample size because he didn't play a ton and he got hurt, he only swung at 22% of pitches outside the strike zone, which is, again, well above league average. And it stands in contrast to the boppers that we talk about for the Royals, who will swing at about everything. Vinny Pasquantino and Bobby Witt Jr. both swing about 30% of the time on pitches outside of the zone. Salvador Perez is one of the worst. That doesn't surprise you if you've ever watched Salvi swing a baseball bat or taken it bat. But Salvi can be tempted to chase. He swings at 42.5% of pitches outside the strike zone. That is in the second percentile of all major league hitters. And Salvi makes it work because he does damage when he swings at strikes. And so does Bobby, and so does Vinny. Clearly, filling out their lineup, the Royals have identified we're looking for guys who don't chase bad pitches. If you don't chase bad pitches, you force pitchers to throw you good pitches if they want to get you out. And then can you do damage against those good pitches? But that's the rub. Maikel Garcia proved last year he could do damage when pitchers had to give in to him because he's got an well above average chase rate, doesn't swing at a lot of pitches outside the strike zone. That means you're going to see more strikes. Nobody wants to give away a free base, so you're going to see more strikes. Can you do damage on pitches in the strike zone? Maikel Garcia can. Can Isaac Collins? He only slugged .411 last year. Can Jonathan India? He's coming off a career low slugging percentage. So it's a good skill to have, right? Identifying whether or not a pitch is a strike or a ball, very hard to do. Very hard to get better at that skill. It's something, generally speaking, you can do or you cannot. And then making good swing decisions on pitches outside the strike zone. That's a good skill to have. But does it make you a good offensive player? Not necessarily. Because what you're going to have to do is prove that a pitcher does have to give in to you. Otherwise, pitchers aren't going to be afraid of you, and they're going to come into the strike zone on you because you know you can't hurt them. That's kind of what happened with Jonathan India last year. Like, oh, he had this great chase rate. Didn't chase out of the strike zone. Well, why didn't he walk 90 times? Because pitchers weren't afraid of him. Pitchers knew he wasn't going to do any damage. So for India and for Collins, and India's at least got a track record. Collins only's got 1 year in the major leagues. And you look into it, like the exit velocities, the barrel percentage, the launch angle, they're not great. They're not great. Suggesting maybe he can't do enough damage to make his chase rate really count over the long haul. But if they can, that's how the Royals keep the line moving. Seeing a lot more pitches, forcing pitchers to come at them in the zone. And even if it is just a bunch of doubles, singles and doubles for Collins and India this year, that's fine. I don't need 30 home runs from Jonathan India. I need 35 doubles from Jonathan India. I'll take 25 doubles from Isaac Collins. Make sure you're in scoring position when the boppers are up. Because when those guys get thrown strikes, that's where they do the damage. We'll take a quick break, come back, wrap up this hour with our countdown to Royals opening day as we wrap up the 3 o'clock hour. First of 3 today on 580 Sports Talk. "31 days until the Kansas City Royals open up the 2026 regular season in Atlanta against the Braves. Royals have a number 31 this year. It's newly acquired reliever Nick Mears. We were just talking about Isaac Collins. Mears came over from Milwaukee in the same trade. That was Angel Zerpa going to the Brewers from the Royals in that deal. Nick Mears has a big arm, a good curveball, was pretty excellent in 2024. Not as good in 2025. The strikeout rate dropped, kind of similar to Lucas Erceg, where the stuff's about the same. Where'd all the strikeouts go? So he's a bounce-back candidate. I like him. I like him in the middle innings. I like that he's got swing and miss stuff. Here's the one thing, though. The Brewers are really smart about pitchers. I think the Royals are, too, but the Brewers are really smart. The Brewers traded for Mears from Colorado in 2024 when Mears was carrying an ERA of 6 with the Rockies, and I'd watched him, and he'd stunk. but he had Rocky stink all over him. And the Brewers identified that, and they got good work out of him for a year and a half. And now they don't want him anymore. Well, why not? Makes me a little nervous when it comes to Nick Mears. But I do think he's a bounce-back candidate. I do think he's got a live arm. I do think he's a solid middle relief option this year for the Royals. First Royal to wear number 31, OG Royal, Hawk Taylor. Yeah, Hawk Taylor. H-A-W-K was a nickname. Best number 31, obviously, Brett Saberhagen. He was number 18 in his best year, but he was number 31 in 1985. And I think when people picture Brett Saberhagen, they picture him with number 31 on his back in that royal blue. Coming up at the 4 o'clock hour, Mock Draft Wednesday and Tim Fitzgerald, plus What Is Wrong With You. Stay with us on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk, hour number 2 on this Wednesday afternoon. Dan Lucero hanging out with you on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk, our Facebook page, WIBW News. Like and subscribe, folks. Like and subscribe. We've been doing some new stuff on the YouTube side of things, trying to do a few more of those YouTube shorts, sort of quick hit takes from the show the day before that you might see filter down your YouTube shorts. They're like reels on Instagram, or I don't know what they call them on Facebook. I don't know what the algorithm demands that you see. The Facebook algorithm never quite knows how to treat me. Right now, I'm getting a lot of actually, I think it's fairly accurate. I get a lot of videos about being a dad, and a lot of videos. I get stand-up comedy, some basketball highlights, and cat videos, kinds of things I generally enjoy. Dirty rugs being power washed. That's good stuff. I could watch those. A little ASMR of just this disgusting rug being power washed and cleaned and soaped and restored to its glory. That's what I want Facebook to show me. Anyway, but if you're on YouTube, check us out. Go subscribe, 580 Sports Talk. Check out some of the YouTube shorts we've been rolling out in the last couple of weeks. Little bang for your buck, which, again, you're not actually spending a buck or a cent. It's free to subscribe to 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. It's free to watch, and it's free to comment in the live chat. If you're in there today, hop in that live chat on our YouTube stream. Say hello, interact with the program. Give me your thoughts. Still soliciting your opinions on the question of the day. What should the Chiefs do with Trent McDuffie? Extend, trade, or let him play his fifth-year option out? Give me your thoughts in the YouTube chat. You can also text the program. Want to hear from you on the text line. 785-272-9429 is that number. 785-272-9429. Coming up in this 4 o'clock hour, Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com will join him at the bottom of this hour. We'll get his thoughts on the very early stages of the K-State men's basketball head coaching search. Starting to be some names that float around out there. Kansas State does have one significant advantage. They're first. They are first to the market, which is an advantage, but also it's a way to get played. It's a way to have agents for mid-major coaches float their clients' names out there so that they can get a contract extension or a nice little pay bump at their mid-major program. So we'll get Tim Fitzgerald's feel for his sense of how that's unfolding. A look ahead to tonight's Kansas State basketball game at Colorado. Some thoughts, some other K-State athletic developments as well. That's coming up at the bottom of this hour. Also, what is wrong with you? We're crowning our final weekly champion of February because we've only got 2 days left of February after this. Well, we have 3, but we only got 2 shows in February, which means we got to crown a February What Is Wrong With You champion. Semifinals tomorrow, championship on Friday, which means we got to be done for the month today. So we'll crown a short week champion on What Is Wrong With You. And also, Mock Draft Wednesday 2.0. Vance in the YouTube comments earlier said we got to workshop a different name. Mock Draft Wednesday doesn't roll off the tongue. And I know. Mock Draft Monday rolled off the tongue. Here's the thing about doing Mock Draft Monday. We've only got 3 hours and a hell of a lot to get to on Mondays. Wednesday's slow news day, man. It's a really slow news day. We're doing headlines at the 5 o'clock hour. Hope you like NBA MVP betting odds. There's really nothing else going on right now. I did see not long ago, looks like Cincinnati is suing Brendan Dzwierzynski. That's fascinating. We'll get to that in some headlines and some other things as well. We'll make it work. But look, Wednesday's slow day. Being completely honest with you, it's a slow day on the sports calendar, typically speaking. So that's why we moved Mock Draft Wednesday to Wednesday, because we got more time to, as they put it in the more cowbell sketch on SNL, we can explore the studio space with Mock Draft Wednesday a little more readily. So that's why we're doing it. If you can come up with a better name for it than Mock Draft Wednesday, be my guest. I'll take your submissions. The text line is 785-272-9429. And you can also interact in the live chat again on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, if you are indeed watching over there. But let's get into Mock Draft Wednesday 2.0. We've got 4 mock drafts we'll be looking at today. 2 of them are single-round mocks. 2 of them are 3-round mocks. And again, you're going to hear familiar names we've already discussed. For example, Mel Kiper rolled out a mock draft yesterday. That's a name you know. And Mel Kiper has the Chiefs selecting Notre Dame running back Jeremiyah Love at number 9 overall. The interesting thing about Kiper's mock, though, is that at number 10, he has the Cincinnati Bengals selecting Miami defensive end Ruben Bain. And so the debate would become, if pick number 9 comes up and both Love and Bain are on the board, what do you do if you're the Chiefs? Because I'm not sure there's a wrong answer there. Like, that's one of those, whatever you hand in, it's going to be one of those 2 guys. I could guarantee if those 2 guys were still on the board, one of the 2 of them would not be after the Chiefs picked at number 9. I would sprint to the table with Ruben Bain's name on the card so fast your head would spin. And this is not because I don't like Jeremiyah Love. I think he's a very good prospect. And we talked about Love at great length yesterday, and there will be, I hope, more to say about him because he's going to keep coming up on these mock draft Wednesdays as we move forward. We'll get some testing numbers, I'm sure. Get maybe some red flags in the interviews. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with Jeremiyah Love. And I hope we have more to say about him than, yeah, he's really good. Right now, that's kind of where we're at in the process. And he'd help the Chiefs at an area of need. But as our NFL insider Matt Verderam pointed out on Monday's show, you can't go into the draft if you're the Chiefs and it's Jeremiyah Love or bust. You can't. You can't. Because the rest of the running back room for the Chiefs, as it currently stands, it's grim. Don't have anybody under contract. Not anybody you've heard of. Not anybody, Brashard Smith, other than him. That's it. And then Brashard Smith is not, I think we can say that the Chiefs probably don't really view him as a rotational running back. Like, the Chiefs need running back number 1 and running back number 2. And depending on how they view Brashard Smith, because I think he's going to be the return specialist next year. Like, if I had to guess, as things are currently constructed, Smith's going to be the return man next year. Now, what does that do for his role in the offense? Does it decrease it, diminish it further? I don't know how it could be diminished further. He didn't have much of a role in the offense last year. But I think it's clear one way or another that the Chiefs don't see Brashard Smith as this diamond in the rough who's going to have this increased role in the offense next year. I think it kind of is what it is with him. And to the extent that he's going to make an impact in 2026, I do think it'll be in the return game. I think he can help the Chiefs in the return game. It was really promising at the end of last year when they finally just let him return kicks and punts. But that means the Chiefs need running backs, plural. And you can't go through the offseason and it's Jeremiyah Love or bust. Because everybody's going to know, depending on how the Chiefs approach the offseason, whether or not it's Jeremiyah Love or bust for them. If the Chiefs just sign Kareem Hunt and call it good, it's a red flag. And there will be rumors, and there already are. Somebody floated one today. Gosh, I do not remember the source, but I happened to see it float down the website formerly known as Twitter, that the Giants really like Jeremiyah Love and would be interested in picking him number 5, to pair with Cam Scatterbo, right? Coming off of that bad injury. But you float stuff out like that because there's another team that's going to really want him, really need him, and might be willing to move up for him. That's what that kind of rumor mongering is for. So, no, the Chiefs cannot go into the draft and it's Jeremiyah Love or bust. They've got to sign somebody who they would be comfortable starting if Love didn't fall to them. And I think that will happen. And if that does happen, and then you're in a position where, all right, great, Jeremiyah Love's on the board. Yeah, take him. And you got a really good backfield. But if you're in a position where Jeremiyah Love is on the board and Ruben Bain is on the board, you don't have to take Jeremiyah Love. You can go get maybe the best pass rusher in the draft. And if he falls to number 9 because teams are afraid of his little T-Rex arms, that's their loss. I'm going to tell you what. I would tell the NFL, I would advise them very strongly not to let the Chiefs get Ruben Bain. I would advise them very strongly against that. Because just as a pure football player, if you want to say Jeremiyah Love's the best pure football player in the draft, all right, I'll listen to that argument. I think Ruben Bain might be number 2, just based on the film. Like, I'm not talking about arm length. I don't care. Watch the games. I think he's the second best football player in the draft. You want to argue for Arvell Reese or Caleb Downs? Okay. Those are good players too. I'm not saying everybody else is a bum. I just think that Bain's that good. And if it were Love or Bain on the board, it'd be Bain for me, and I wouldn't hesitate. Bucky Brooks of NFL.com did a one-round mock draft. He has the Chiefs going wide receiver, Carnell Tate of Ohio State. In Brooks's mock draft, important to note, Jeremiyah Love would not be on the board. They have him going number 8 to New Orleans. Another reason that you cannot go into the draft Jeremiyah Love or bust, because New Orleans makes a lot of sense as a landing spot for Jeremiyah Love. Alvin Kamara is aging. Name another Saints running back. Not Deuce McAllister. Not Reggie Bush. We're not remembering some guys. Who's on that roster? You got me. Devin Neal. He's on that roster. Is Devin Neal a future running back 1 in the league? That'd be awesome if he was. But the Saints might want to pair him with somebody of Love's pedigree. So I think there's a lot of smoke to the idea that the Saints would be interested in taking Love at number 8. So that's another argument in favor of the Chiefs not being able to go into the draft, just saying, all right, yeah, like we signed Tyler Algier, let's say. Just throw a name out there of a guy who hasn't been a starting running back in the league, but is good. Like Tyler Algier is a nice player. Solid change of pace to Bijan Robinson. Too many carries, if you ask me, as a Bijan Robinson fantasy owner last season. But okay, yeah, you sign Tyler Algier and bring back Kareem Hunt, and that would be an indication to me you really, really need Jeremiyah Love. I don't think you can do that. Now, if you go sign Travis Etienne, Kenneth Walker, somebody like that, and then you add Jeremiyah Love to that mix, okay, then you got Stu going at running back. But it can't be the only option, especially because there is a chance he gets sniped before he gets there. Carnell Tate, not a bad consolation prize. Big wide receiver. Question about Ohio State wide receivers, though, is obviously one of them was just offensive rookie of the year, but look at the track record of some of those other ones. Like Chris Olave's been very good. Emeka Egbuka wasn't really that good for the Buccaneers this last year. Marvin Harrison Jr. has been a colossal disappointment as a pro. How much of that is Cardinal stink? Who can say? But he's been a disappointment. Carnell Tate, though, like physically, tools-wise, absolutely. Sign me up as the kind of fit that the Chiefs really haven't had at wide receiver. Let's look at some of the 3-round mocks. We got 2 3-round mocks to get to. One of them from Dalton Wasserman of Pro Football Focus. Jeremiyah Love, number 9 overall, sure. His pick for the Chiefs at 40th overall in the second round. Oklahoma edge rusher R. Mason Thomas. I watched enough Oklahoma football to know that dude impacts games and makes plays when he's on the field, which has not been often. He's dealt with some injuries the last couple of years of his college career. Question I have about R. Mason Thomas. He's listed at 6'2", 250. Suffice it to say that is not a prototypical Steve Spagnuolo Chief defense edge defender. We've talked about that. I think the Chiefs would break tendency for a player like Ruben Bain, but would they break tendency for a second-round edge or a day 2 edge? I really don't think they would. So that pick doesn't make a lot of sense to me. That doesn't feel like a Chiefs pick. Even though I like the player, doesn't feel like a Chiefs pick at number 40. Pick number 74 in the third round, Dalton Wasserman of Pro Football Focus has the Chiefs going back to the offense. Tennessee wide receiver Chris Brazzell. Chris Brazzell is 6'5" and 200 pounds, built like a giraffe. I love the idea, again, of the Chiefs adding some real size at wide receiver. And certainly you'd like to think that Brazzell gets into an NFL locker room and an NFL training regimen and nutrition regimen. He can add some solid weight to his frame. But what happens when he gets pressed? What happens when somebody is physical with him at the line? And look, we're talking about the 74th overall pick. Yeah, those guys are going to be flawed prospects. You're not talking about, typically future all-pros. But Brazzell has the ability to be a deep threat and the size to be a change of pace to everything else that the Chiefs have at wide receiver. So as mid-round wide receiver picks go, I like that one more than most for the Chiefs. Final mock draft we're going to look at today. This call is coming from inside the house. This is Brendan Dzwierzynski's 3-round mock draft. Our guy Brendan can't be here today. He's got Washburn basketball tonight. He's heading out to Lee Arena, getting things set up. Washburn Hoops over on Country 106.9, our sister station. 5:15 pregame, 5:30 women, 7:30 men. Pitt State in town as the final homestand of the season begins. But Brendan left us a little gift today, a 3-round mock draft. With the 9th overall pick, Brendan has the Chiefs selecting Jeremiyah Love. And his comment on the matter is, I would have loved to have traded down, but didn't have the option, and Love is the best player available at number 9 in this particular mock draft. At number 40, here's another edge that the Chiefs could take, and you'll hear this name a lot, I think, in mock drafts, late first, early second. And I want to make sure I get his name right. I'm afraid I'm not. Gabe Jacas from Illinois. It's Jacas. It is not Jackas or anything that sounds like that. You don't pronounce the J. It is Gabe Jacas. Does he fit the mold of a Chiefs defensive lineman? 6'3", 270. Yeah, he does. Brendan's comment on Jacas is you might want him to put on a little more weight, but he has played a lot of football, and his style of play is the George Karlaftis run-through-your-face mode. He's that kind of pass rusher. All energy, all effort, kind of player the Chiefs have liked in that sort of range of the draft. Remember, Karlaftis was late first. Felix Anudike-Uzomah was the end of the first. That one hasn't panned out. Gabe Jacas from Illinois at number 40. And then number 74, a pass catcher from Ohio State. Not Carnell Tate, obviously. Tight end Max Clare. Brendan's note is a former high school quarterback now playing tight end at a college in Ohio who's a plus route runner with average blocking traits projected to go in the 3rd round. Does that sound like anyone you know? That is not to say, of course, that Max Clare is the next Travis Kelce, but that is the sort of pedigree you're getting anyway. That's sort of athletic background. You're getting a really good athlete at the tight end position and somebody who is a plus route runner, somebody who can get himself open. Chiefs haven't evaluated the tight end position very well in recent years. I think Noah Gray was a hit. Jared Wiley looks like a big miss. None of us know what Jake Brenningstool is. But I wouldn't be surprised to see the Chiefs take a look at tight end in the draft, especially if they decide that they could use the $4 million in cap savings more than they could use Noah Gray next year. And maybe take another swing at identifying a young tight end that Travis Kelce can mentor. Because, again, last couple of times they've tried to do that, it really hasn't worked out. That is your mock draft Wednesday version 2.0. Again, a whole lot of Jeremiyah Love to look at. A lot of steam for the Chiefs going edge early in the 2nd round. I think that's probably the ideal place for them to do it, just given the talent level of the players who are at the edge position, where you've got the obvious studs, Bain and Bailey, who are probably both top 10 picks. And then after that, you've got guys who could go as high as like number 12, number 15, all the way to like a good crop of guys who could be day one contributors who are going to go early in round 2. And Gabe Akis from Brendan's mock would certainly fit that mold. We'll take a timeout here in 580 Sports Talk. Tim Fitzgerald, GoPowerCat.com, coming up in about 10 minutes. But first, we got a round of What Is Wrong With You? We're going to crown our weekly champion, our final weekly champion for the month of February, coming up on 580 WIBW. Time for a round of What Is Wrong With You on 580 Sports Talk. We got two new stories competing today. We're going to crown a weekly champion, our last one of the month of February, so we can do our end of the month semifinals on Thursday's show and our championship on Friday's show. Here to help us out, Spencer Dupuis. Hi, Spencer.
Hello.
Doing your thing on the Ag Desk this week, able to pop in for some What Is Wrong With You. Our current weekly champion, that ain't chalkboard dust. The teacher in Wisconsin who faces a possession of cocaine charge. She was doing blow in the classroom bathroom.
Wow.
First of all, you're aware of the concept of the classroom bathroom, correct? Like
yes.
Every classroom gets a bathroom.
Yes, when I was in elementary school, we had classroom bathrooms.
And my wife has one in her classroom. She's an elementary school teacher as well. The teacher, 58-year-old Lori Lobenstein, was confronted after drug dogs sniffed out the presence of cocaine on her at the school.
Wow.
And told investigators, yeah, I started doing blow in August.
Midlife crisis?
Well, I call BS, but when I relayed this story and telling my wife about it, her response was, must have been a tough group of kids.
She got him the first week and she was like, I can't do this, man.
Yeah, that's first week of school. She's like, look, I'm 58 years old. You got some problem behaviors. I gotta make a phone call. I'm gonna need some white girl to get through this year. But don't worry, she always cleaned up after herself. She told the police, look, I'm not leaving any blowout for the kids. I'm not sharing. We don't know what grade she taught. I think we can safely refer to her teaching career in the past tense.
Yes.
But that is our current winner on What Is Wrong With You. You got 2 new stories today. Spencer, why don't you go first?
Yeah, we're going to go to Miami. A Florida man was arrested after he held a woman hostage after meeting on a dating app. Police said Miami police say 34-year-old Sadi Tremino bought an Orlando woman a Brightline ticket and invited her to celebrate his birthday.
Brightline is the train, for the record. The train there in Florida you can get from major city to major city.
Yeah. According to CBS News, the woman brought her 3-year-old daughter with her to visit Miami. When they arrived, police said the woman believed they were going out to dinner, but he bought a pizza and took the woman and her daughter back to his apartment. The woman told police she felt uncomfortable due to the apartment's condition and the fact that Tremino tried to kiss her. When she tried to leave, police said he became angry, blocked her, and bear hugged her to stop her from leaving. Police said he took the woman's phone away before she was able to lock herself in a room with her child and somehow call for help. He now faces multiple charges, including false imprisonment and battery by strangulation. Bad dude.
Oh, awful dude. Yeah, I think first thing, if your expectation is one thing and then the expectation is not immediately met on a date, you got to get out of there.
Yeah.
You got to get out of there. Unless it's mutual, like, okay, hey, we made a reservation, but they had to cancel it. Or, I don't know. Like there are circumstances in which you say, okay, we got to make a different plan, but that's just it. We got to make a different plan. I'm making a different plan. Like, I don't know about this. I came a long way to see you and I've got my 3-year-old with me. I don't know about that. Now, all right. That's our first story today. My second story today, we're going to Aranac County, Michigan. What would you do if a cousin of yours says, hey man, let's drive to Florida? Would you be kind of psyched? Especially if you lived in Michigan in the winter and be like, yeah, man, maybe that sounds good. Let's go on a trip.
What drugs are you transporting, dog? It's Michigan.
That could be a question. That could also be a question. What if you did it at knife point? Because that's what we have here.
Wow.
21-year-old man has been charged with a felony after Michigan State Police said he kidnapped his cousin. A gas station in Sterling, Michigan, February 21st, 10:15 a.m. A 21-year-old Holbert man called 911. The man reported that after drinking alcohol together earlier in the evening, his cousin had forced him to drive to Florida at knife point. When his cousin fell asleep, the man called a family member and 911 for help. No one was hurt. State police said Cayman Honeyset was arrested for unlawful imprisonment and lodged at the Aranac County Jail. He was arraigned 2 days ago. So they got ripped, and one of them had the bright idea, hey, man, it would be sick to go to Florida. Let's go to Florida. And because, like, yeah, that's not really realistic. That's pretty far away, dude. Yeah. Like, I'm drunk like you are, but I'm not so drunk to think I want to make that long drive. And the cousin got a knife, said, you are driving me to Florida, bud. I want to go see Universal Studios or whatever. I want to go to a Tampa Bay Lightning game. Like, I don't know why he wanted to go to Florida so bad, but he wanted to do it so bad he kidnapped his cousin over it.
That's crazy.
That's a wild move. I'm going to go with that one today because I think the other guy just is a creep. But at the same time, I could see the argument for your story because we do know that alcohol was involved in mine.
Yeah.
Either way, though, we're not beating the cokehead teacher.
No, that one might win this month.
That is unbelievable. Yeah, I am 58 years old.
And I started doing it in August.
I decided that I would start doing cocaine as a 58-year-old and that I would bring it around the kids I taught. But don't worry, I cleaned that bathroom up nice.
Yeah. When was she arrested?
February, middle of February.
It took them that long to figure out she was around students. That's crazy.
And high on cocaine?
Yeah.
Like if she was doing it all year, or if the problem progressively, like that is the part I do believe, that the problem for cocaine can get worse and worse because from what I have heard, I've never done cocaine. I have no interest in doing cocaine. But the people who get really into cocaine, that's like all you can think about. Is where can I get cocaine? When is the next time I can do cocaine? Yeah. When you get into the depths of it, it's like I can only think about the only thing that matters to me. It's not phonics. It's not base 10. It's when can I snort cocaine next? Yeah. So I totally believe that woman was in the throes of addiction. But like you took up cocaine as a 58-year-old? Wild. That's our winner. That'll advance to tomorrow's semifinals on What Is Wrong With You. Tim Fitzgerald joins us next for the Wildcat Wrap-Up. We are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline by Tim Fitzgerald, publisher at GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. This is the Wildcat Wrap-Up, sponsored by Tallgrass Windows and Doors, who provide high-quality products at affordable prices. You can check out their showrooms in either Wamego or Lawrence, or visit them online at tallgrasswindows.com. Excellence without exception. That's Tallgrass Windows and Doors. Boy, Fitz, back to reality for the Matt Driscoll era of K-State hoops last Saturday, huh?
Yeah. It was one of my favorite scenes in any movie, and it sums up so many things in college athletics. In Shrek, when Pinocchio becomes a real boy, and it lasts like 15 seconds, and he hits the ground and said, "Oh!" That was K-State basketball. They were a real team for one game, and then they went back to being whatever they are.
Well, I think it has been a pretty clear dividing line in games this year, even before the coaching change, that there's a difference between K-State in games that they actually think they can win and K-State in games where they don't. And they clearly did not go to Lubbock with any belief that they were going to win that basketball game. And then Doreen Buka got hurt and things got worse. They might have a little belief tonight against an also bad Colorado team. But, Fitz, let's be real honest. This is not going to be a game that they're going to send the game tape to the National Basketball Hall of Fame and Museum once it's all done.
I don't think they will. Actually, video of basketball doesn't even escape the mountains of Boulder. It's not actually happening. We never have seen evidence of it. No, actually, they've been pretty decent at home this year. One of those teams that's much better at home than on the road, and I think this is a challenge. I mean, they looks like they'll be without Buka tonight, possibly, and that's probably best for him because he'd be at 12,000 feet because everyone would be a couple thousand feet below him, and I'll just say this: I think K-State fans are so ready for this to be over. If this team wins anything, I'll be amazed. Because how do the players not want this circus to be over too? And we'll see what their effort is tonight.
Tim Fitzgerald to GoPowerCat.com joining us for the Wildcat Wrap-Up presented by Tallgrass Windows and Doors here on 580 Sports Talk. Still early days in the coaching search, Fitz, to replace Jerome Tang as the next full-time head coach of the K-State men's basketball program. How much of an advantage do you sense that it is that Kansas State is first to the market? And in what ways are they maybe hoping to be able to press that advantage before other programs with maybe a little bit more stability and maybe a lot more money and maybe a bit more appealing jobs to offer at this moment start to get to the market themselves?
I don't think it's that big a deal in basketball because the coaches really aren't moving. I mean, you're not typically hiring someone who's not still playing in the postseason. Maybe you're hiring from the NBA, but that's a whole different circumstance. They play into the summer, and I just don't think it's that huge in basketball. But here's where it's an advantage for Gene: is one, this is not a clear market. I mean, you don't have a long list of coaches that seem to be ready for the next thing. You've got some obvious ones, but those guys will hang on. If they believe a certain job will be open, they're just going to wait. They're going to hold on. And but Gene will get a time to sift through and maybe identify some people that others might miss that aren't as visible right away. And I think that's important right now because I think the game has changed so dramatically. When I see a name like Chris Beard, I'm like, no. I mean, even setting aside the other nonsense in his life, no, he's not winning in this period of time because I think college basketball has changed dramatically like it has football. And some coaches are getting left behind. And as I made a point in today's daily delivery video, I think 4 years ago, if you had a shot at Scott Drew, you're all over it. And now you kind of hesitate because you don't know if he's making the adjustment to what college basketball is, not what it was 3-4 years ago.
Your daily delivery about building the ideal K-State coach, I thought was really good. And this is the part of our conversation where I plug the YouTube channel for GoPowerCat.com, which you should go check out on YouTube. You should subscribe to it, just like you subscribe to us at 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. I won't ask you to reiterate your entire video and bring your content to my show, but what I ask you is this. What do you think the most important trait for the next Kansas State men's basketball coach is for the fans? What do you sense that the fans value most in whoever it is that comes to Manhattan to lead this program?
That's easy for K-State fans. It's to put together a team that just puts it all on the floor. I've seen K-Staters accept mediocre teams if they're putting it all out there. K-Staters, and maybe it's the background of the institution, they just don't have much time for people who aren't invested, who aren't doing things with a great deal of joy and effort. And you want to get on the wrong side of K-State fans, lollygag through games. Don't look like you care to win. you want to even compete. And that's where it went wrong for this team at K-State, because they showed that for big parts of the season. And the coach would constantly say, I'm proud of my guys. And it would just heighten the anger. And I think that's just what everyone wants. And that had nothing to do with my video. I should have probably put that in my video. But I was a little more specific on, kind of X's and O's type things and roster construction. But see, those things it's going to be a little bit harder to find those coaches, I think, particularly in this era where you don't see many barking Frank Martins anymore. Not as many, not as the players. You just don't do that in the current environment of college basketball and the students and players you're dealing with.
Regarding roster construction, what do you think is the best way to build a winning team at Kansas State? Do you have to be heavy in high school recruiting, even though you maybe don't have the most fertile of territory to recruit from always? That's not to say there are never players in Kansas, but Kansas is in Texas. It's not California. It's not, basketball hotbed turning out multiple Division I prospects every year. That's not the case. High major D1 prospects. That's just not the case. Is it a reliance on the portal, but more geared toward looking for guys who are coming up a level or guys with multiple years of eligibility left? What do you think is the ideal, the mix that the next coach, whoever they are, is going to have to hit to be able to put together a roster that this fan base can rally behind?
Good stuff. I tell you what, I think with roster construction anymore, being consistent in the number of high school players you go after is really a key. And, because in the past we'd see teams maybe only have one opening in a year and maybe have 6. And then the portal came along, and really what class you are didn't matter because you can fill your roster no matter what. I think it's a mistake, though, and we've seen it at Kansas State certainly, to rely every year on rebuilding your roster through the portal. Now, the first year or two the coach comes in, he's probably going to have to. But I think if you recruit 3 or 4 guys out of the high school ranks a year, attrition will make sure that you can add those veteran pieces as you go through the portal. And I think what happens there is you start to understand, you come in and then you succeed and you get paid more and you get paid more and you retain those guys along the way. While the ones who maybe you don't want to retain because of skill or how they fit in your locker room, they float away and you can replace them with the portal with someone who maybe upgrades. I think we're seeing a lot of programs that never gave up on high school recruiting are the ones that are still being successful. And I guess it helps if you're, Kansas, BYU, or Arizona, and your freshman is, one of the best players in the entire country. He just happens to be a freshman. But I think you have to still have a basis of a program, a foundation, a skeleton of a framework of what you're trying to do, so that when portal players come in, they slide into something. They don't have to relearn as a brand new team. They can adapt with the help of everyone around them. And we never saw that at Kansas State under Jerome Tang.
Our guest is Tim Fitzgerald, publisher of GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. He joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. This is the Wildcat Wrap-Up, presented by Tallgrass Windows and Doors here on 580 Sports Talk. A couple more questions for you, Fitz. Do you think this fan base can be sold on another less experienced head coach? And I don't necessarily mean a first-time head coach like Jerome Tang was, but somebody who maybe hasn't been a high major head coach for long or at all? Or do you think this next hire has to be somebody with a track record of success to get the fan base really excited?
Now, Gene Taylor said he wanted to hire someone with head coaching experience, and I know that is typically what you probably want to do, but just because this guy didn't work out doesn't mean everyone won't work out. That is going to be a first-time coach. Now, I do think it's important to understand that if you're bringing in a coach, understand which coach they are. You know what I mean? If he's the offensive coach or defensive coach or the recruiter, which is typically the three roles of assistants, you know how to build a staff around him or have him build a staff. I think the mistake here was Jerome Tang was the recruiter at Baylor. He wasn't the X's and O's guy, but he decided he was the X's and O's guy when he got here. And once he lost guys that could just play a real vague type of basketball, meaning, go make plays, which is Jerome Tang's coaching. Go play. That's really complex stuff. Well, Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson could do that. And then it broke down after that because everyone else needed more structure and he wasn't able to offer it. And I think it's important to understand who you're hiring. And honestly, in this environment, I would lean into more of a defensive coach and then someone who understands the offensive analytics of the current environment onto your staff. But I'm fine with hiring a assistant coach. Just make sure he's a coach first and not a talent acquisition expert.
Last one for you, Fitz. Kansas State Athletics recently rolled out Cats Plus. It's an opportunity for fans to subscribe, and money goes to NIL efforts, and it's a bit like a fan club. You get some exclusive access. You get some, some videos, some articles. You get a little behind-the-scenes stuff. Chance to win some prizes, all kinds of things. What do you know about what the athletic director would perceive as that being successful? What has to happen for Cats Plus to be something that is successful, something that helps Kansas State athletics?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's a different market. We're independent. In times like this, the value of a subscription is independence and being free to say what's going on. If times are great, those things are wonderful. If your team's clicking and everyone's happy, all the joyful highlights coming out of that will be great. But it is, for lack of a better way to put it, is state-run media. In this case, K-State run media. So you're not going to get anything too in-depth. But I think the media is not very happy that they're promising exclusive interviews and things. And if that means we don't have access to certain people because they do, I think you're going to really anger what's left of the media. And also, I can imagine some people aren't real happy about literally competing with the school they're covering. But that's just kind of the way everything works now with every entity seeming to have their own media.
Tim Fitzgerald is GoPowerCat.com, joins us every Wednesday at this time on the program for the Wildcat Wrap-Up, sponsored by Tallgrass Windows and Doors, who provide high-quality products at affordable prices. You can check out their showrooms in either Wamego or Lawrence, or visit them online at tallgrasswindows.com. Excellence without exception. That's Tallgrass Windows and Doors. Fitz, always appreciate the time with you. Look forward to doing it again next Wednesday.
Thank you, my brother.
That is Tim Fitzgerald. We'll take a break, come back, put a wrap on this 4 o'clock hour on 580 Sports Talk. Wrapping up this 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. Appreciate everybody tuning in today. Look forward to hanging out with you for one more hour. We got 580 Sports Talk headlines coming up to start the hour. Got a little bit of NFL news, and Cincinnati is suing Brendan Dzwierzynski, a school suing a former player for an NIL buyout. That's the world of college athletics today. Plus, a look at one writer's idea for who might start week 1 under center for the Kansas City Chiefs, if indeed it cannot be Patrick Mahomes as he recovers from his injury. And a look ahead to Kansas State and Colorado tonight in the Big 12. And God bless you if you plan on staying up late to watch that one. We'll talk all about it. We got one more hour together here on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Third and final hour on this Hump Day edition of 580 Sports Talk. So glad you're with us. My name is Dan Lucero. Thanks for being here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our streaming video channels, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube and WIBW News on Facebook. However you're joining the program today, thanks so much for being a part here on 580 Sports Talk. This is normally where I would invite you to join the live chat if you're watching on YouTube, but apparently YouTube has decided we're all a bunch of spammers. They won't let any comments through on the live chat today. I went and even opened it up on my phone, tried to comment as myself. No dice. So I don't know what's going on with the live chat today. Hopefully we can get that fixed on YouTube. But if you are watching the program on YouTube, we haven't blocked you from participating in the chat. Do not take it personally. Just having a overactive spam filter today, I guess, on the live chat. But if you want to make your voice heard on the program today, and I hope that you do, because I'd love hearing from you, you can text the program. Use that same phone you might be watching the YouTube stream on, and send a text to 785-272-9429. 785-272-9429. You can also watch the program on Facebook, WIBW News, and leave a comment there. Move the party to Facebook today if you'd like, or move it to the text line. We'll do it old school in the text line. Back when that used to be our only option before we did the streaming video. We introduced that about 3+ years ago. So that's what's going on today. If you were in the live chat at any point over on YouTube and my messages aren't getting through, wasn't us. We can, I think, blame YouTube for that one. I'm going to blame YouTube for that one. Hopefully they get their act together and get that fixed for us. But we got one more hour to hang out together. However you choose to hang out, interact with the program today. I'm glad that you do. We got our 580 Sports Talk headlines coming up. It is a slow news day. Just going to go ahead and warn you of that it is a slow news day. But we are going to get to some headlines, because there are some interesting ones that we can gnaw on. Also, Seth Walder of ESPN.com put out an article today guessing who will start at quarterback week 1 for all 32 NFL teams. And I thought that was really fascinating because, again, that's up in the air for the Chiefs for the first time in a long time. When was the last time the Chiefs went into a season and didn't know who their starting quarterback was going to be? Got to be... It's got to be before the Alex Smith trade, right? You got to go back that far, right? I would imagine. Don't remember off the top of my head how the 2012 season unfolded quarterback wise. There may have been a competition in that year. No, that would have been Matt Castle. Matt Castle's on the team in 2012. So it went from Matt Castle, who was acquired to be the starting quarterback, to Alex Smith, to Patrick Mahomes. So the last time maybe you didn't know who the week 1 starter was going to be, would it be 2008? That was the year Tyler Thigpen started 11 games. Maybe Damon Heward was the incumbent. So maybe he went into the year and everybody expected that he was going to start. 2008 was a very grim year for the Kansas City Chiefs. Very, very grim. If you can name all 4 quarterbacks who attempted passes for the Chiefs that season, there is a special place waiting for you in the Chiefs' kingdom of heaven. I gave you 2 of them. And I'm sure there are some sickos out there that can come up with the other 2. But, so it's been a long time, is the point, where week 1 is coming. Who's going to start for the Chiefs? Everybody hopes it's going to be Patrick Mahomes. I hope it's Mahomes. I think there's a better than 50-50 chance it's Mahomes, just because I think he's a psycho. I think his body is dead. I think he's literally built different. And I think he's got a chance to get back, but that's also not 100% that he's going to start week 1. So Seth Walder has his guess as to who the Chiefs might start week 1. And I actually think it's a pretty good idea. And we'll discuss that. Also, there's another bit in Walder's article where he has another guess for a different team as to who their starting quarterback is going to be. And I'm just going to read that to you and laugh for like 15 minutes. That's going to be 15 minutes of the show, me laughing at the Minnesota Vikings. We'll get to that a little bit later on. Plus, a preview, such as we'll do one of tonight's K-State basketball game. Wildcats in action in Boulder against Colorado, the renewal of some old Big 12 hostilities. First time K-State's been to the CU Event Center since 2011. 7 o'clock pregame coverage from the K-State Sports Network from Learfield ahead of tonight's 8 o'clock tip-off. You can catch it right here on your home for the Wildcats, 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. You can watch the game tonight if you like on FS1. Hit mute, sync up wide, and stand here on WIBW. If you'd like to hear Washburn basketball, there's just about to hit the air over on our sister station, your home for the Ichabods, Country 106.9. Brendan Dzwierzynski, courtside and mic side at Lee Arena, the final week of the MIAA regular season. Washburn hosting Pitt State in a Sunflower State rivalry tonight. He's about to go on the air, like within minutes, because tip-off of the women's game is at 5:30 and the men's game is to follow. So again, you can catch those games tonight over on our sister station, your home of the Bods, Country 106.9. Well, let's hop into these headlines. We're going to begin with some baseball. They're in the bottom of the ninth inning in surprise. And you know the saying, there's no tying in baseball. Well, there might be a tie, but we don't know yet. They're still playing. They're tied at 8 in the bottom of the ninth. They won't play a 10th. The Royals and the Mariners are deadlocked at 8, but the Royals have the winning run at second base with 2 out. And coming to the plate, Nick Lofton to face Mariners pitcher Cliff Kingsbury. It's not Cliff. His name is Jimmy Kingsbury. There's only one Kingsbury I know. Anyway, so the Royals still have a chance to win this one. They have tried several times to win it and then tried also to give the game away. They led 3-1, gave up 4 runs in the 6th, got all those runs back in the 7th. The big swing of the day for the Royals, a 3-run homer from former first-round pick Gavin Cross, who is very much a forgotten man in the Royals system. And I feel bad. Like, a lot of Royals first-round picks that have been flops in recent years, and there have been more of them than not, unfortunately, and it's kind of why the Royals were where they were there for a while. You can point to and say, oh, yeah, that guy just couldn't play. Like, Asa Lacy couldn't throw strikes, and then he got hurt, but he couldn't throw strikes. Nick Prado struck out too much. MJ Melendez, not a first-round pick, but, you know, could make enough contact when he got to the bigs. Gavin Cross looked like a player coming out of college and looked like a player in his first professional season. And then he came down with Rocky Mountain spotted fever, I think it was. Something I've never heard of in my life, but debilitating enough to knock him out for about an entire season. And he's just not been the same player since. And that's a drag. So I'm pulling for Gavin Cross to have a happy ending to his professional baseball career and ultimately make it to the big league level. But we'll see. He's certainly been passed on the organization depth chart. And I think the Royals at this point, anything he gives them organizationally, you'd have to consider to be a nice bonus. But he did hit a 3-run home run, part of a 4-run 7th. Royals regained the lead at that point, 7-5. They led 8-6 going into the 9th. And with 2 outs, Ben Sears gave up the lead, gave up a 2-run home run to Colorado Rockies legend Connor Joe. That made it 8-8, and that looks like that's going to be the final score as Nick Lofton grounded into a fielder's choice to end the 9th inning. And typically in the spring training games, the 9th is where you pack it in regardless of the score. So I don't think they're going to play a 10th. I'll wait and make sure that is confirmed. But they are through 9 in the Cactus League today. The Royals and the Mariners, nothing between the two teams, tied at 8. Other highlights for the Royals today, in addition to Cross's 3-run home run, Bobby Witt Jr. had a double. Vinny Pasquantino had an RBI double. Cameron Meisner, former Missouri Tiger, had a triple and scored a run, an RBI triple and scored a run. On the mound, Noah Cameron with a solid outing in his first outing of the spring. 2 scoreless innings, allowed a hit and a walk, struck out a pair. Mason Black, former Giant farmhand, and I believe he did pitch in the major leagues for the Giants. He's made 10 big league appearances, 8 of them starts over the last 2 years. He was acquired this offseason in a trade bidding for a bullpen spot. He worked a scoreless 5th inning allowed a hit, struck out 2. Eli Morgan, another reliever bidding for a roster spot, former Guardian and Cub, worked a scoreless 7th, did not allow a run on 1 hit and a strikeout. So those were the highlights from the box score for the Royals and the Mariners this afternoon. Next headline. Let's move to this big headline from the world of Big 12 athletics. University of Cincinnati has sued their former quarterback, Brendan Sorsby, in federal court, alleging he breached his NIL contract with the Bearcats when he refused to pay a $1 million exit fee after he transferred to Texas Tech. The lawsuit, filed in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Ohio, seeks $1 million in liquidated damages, which the school said Sorsby was contractually obligated to pay within 30 days of transferring. In the complaint, Cincinnati's attorneys said the quarterback's representative advised that Sorsby refuses to pay the university anything. It's not as though Sorsby can't afford it. $1 million's not chump change, but his NIL agreement with Texas Tech this coming season is reported to be paying him between $4 and $6 million. The university said in a statement today, in his lucrative NIL agreement with Cincinnati Athletics, Brendan Sorsby committed to stay and play for 2 seasons as a proud Bearcat representative. He also agreed that if he left the university before that time, he would pay the university a specific amount for the substantial harm that his breach would cause. Cincinnati Athletics intends to enforce that contractual commitment. As stewards of the university resources, the athletics department has a duty to do so. We thank Brendan for his time at Cincinnati and wish him success in the future. The lawsuit says Sorsby signed an 18-month NIL contract that was set to expire December 15th of 2026. The university claims Sorsby notified the football team December 1st that he would not play any further games for the Bearcats, including the Liberty Bowl against Navy on January 2nd. He entered the transfer portal that day and almost immediately signed the NIL deal with Texas Tech. The lawsuit claims also that Sorsby violated the terms of his NIL deal with Cincinnati when his image appeared on a large digital billboard in Times Square announcing his commitment to Texas Tech. Cincinnati is not the first college athletics program to sue a former player for liquidated damages after breaking an NIL contract and transferring. In December, Georgia sued Damon Wilson, a former edge rusher, for $390,000 in damages. Wilson has countersued in a Missouri court. Duke sued Darian Mensah, their former quarterback, January 20th, in an attempt to prevent him from transferring and an attempt to enforce the multi-year NIL contract. The sides reached an undisclosed settlement, which allowed Mensah to join the Hurricanes. The question at hand here is whether or not NIL contracts are actually enforceable in court. Because remember, these aren't employees. So if you're not an employee, you sign a contract, an agreement, how enforceable is it in a court of law if you're not an employee? Because that's the insistence, right? Like these kids, they're not employees. Make them employees, you'd solve a lot of problems. You'd have enforceable contracts that would stand up in court. Players wouldn't break those contracts so readily. But no, we can't make the players employees. We can't do that. I mean, the end of the NCAA, we can't do that. So that's what's at stake there. And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge something that probably a lot of you are thinking. It sucks talking about this. I do not enjoy talking about NIL disputes. I think you can hold 2 thoughts in your head. And I think the reason I think you can hold 2 thoughts in your head is because I hold these 2 thoughts in my head, and I do not feel like a hypocrite for doing so. I think that the advent of the ability for players to profit from their names, images, and likenesses has been an overwhelming positive for players. It was long overdue in what amounts to $1 billion industry, in what amounts to $1 billion industry, that the players profit in the same way that coaches profit, that athletic directors profit, that staff members in the athletic departments profit. There is so much money in college sports. And for years and years and years, we weren't giving any of it to the athletes, at least not legally. And now you can do it legally. Now you can do it above board. That's good. The fact that a college athlete can make money for their performance is good. I also understand the thought behind, we have a text from the 785 that is to the second thought that I hold in my head at the same time. The text from 785 says NIL is ruining college. I think they mean college sports, so they'll assume that. And if I'm wrong, text, you can tell me if you just think it's ruining the entire college experience for everybody. But I assume you left a word out, and I assume you mean that NIL is ruining college sports because you are not the first person to share a sentiment like that with us. And while I don't go that far, because we're still watching, we're still talking about it, people are still buying tickets, people are still making a lot of money, schools are still making a lot of money, it's still $1 billion industry. Nothing is being ruined. But I do agree that the fan experience, being a college sports fan, is not as enjoyable as it used to be. Back when you knew who played for your team because they committed to your school and committed to being there for 3 or 4 years. The NIL era, the player empowerment, the player movement, whatever you want to call it, has made being a college sports fan a less enjoyable experience. I think that that is true. I think that is one of those unintended consequences of having done the right thing, the thing that should have been done long ago, which is allowing college athletes to make money in the $1 billion industry that they contribute to, that they are the backbone of. But it is a consequence. And I have heard it from listeners, and I have heard it from texters, commenters, that just don't enjoy college sports as much since the advent of NIL. And it doesn't even have to do, like I said, for many of you, it's not about the players getting paid. Many of you, in your frustration with, again, I hate the term, but we'll use it as shorthand, the NIL era, acknowledge that it is appropriate and right and just for college athletes to receive a chunk of these profits that they are delivering to these athletic departments and to their universities. And that just like a music student could sell a CD and make money, and a chemist could write a book, or a poet could publish some poems and make some money for the skill that brought them to college, college athletes ought to be able to make money, real money. I know people for many, many years, well, they get a scholarship. They get their books paid for. Have you ever tried putting a scholarship in your gas tank? Have you ever tried eating a book? Don't eat a book. Money, man. Real cold, hard cash. That was always the fair way to compensate the contributors, the primary contributors to the $1 billion industry that is college athletics. It was nonsense that you could sell a K-State number 7 jersey, and everybody in the world knew who that jersey was and why you were buying it, but Colin Klein couldn't get a dime. So you're buying his jersey. And now Avery Johnson can make money when you buy his. That is good. But the knock-on consequences of the transfer portal, of players leaving schools because the NIL deals are better elsewhere, of programs that maybe lost a little bit of themselves and their identity in the pursuit of handing out NIL dollars. Kansas State basketball. It has made being a fan less fun. It has. I understand that. And it has made talking about college sports just a little less fun. I acknowledge that that is true too. And I acknowledge that, like, who wins between Cincinnati and Brendan Thorsby is not like a terribly interesting thing to me. But I do think that the solution, I don't know how much better it makes it, but I do think it makes it better to a degree. These contracts are much more enforceable if the athletes are employees. Much more enforceable. Because otherwise, they're just kind of agreements. And while on the one hand, I understand text from the 785 says you sign a contract, you should honor its terms. Like, I understand that. But at the same time, if you feel like you did honor the terms of that contract and that you don't feel like you ought to pay $1 million exit fee because you gave the 18 months to the university that you were contracted to give, and you played in the games, all the games that you could physically play in the time frame of the contract, I'm not giving you $1 million. Who says? Make it hold up in court. But I do think that long term, you make these athletes employees and they sign contracts, multi-year contracts, then they do stick around because the contracts are enforceable and they do hold up in court. And if you sign a bad one, tough. You got to ride it out. You got to honor the contract. That's where I agree with you. That's where I agree with the texter. But that is the challenge right now for universities to make these things hold up in court. And that's where that's at. So we'll keep an eye on that story. Next headline. This is a Big 12 story. It's also an AFC West story. The Denver Broncos have hired the University of Colorado's defensive coordinator to their coaching staff. Robert Livingston, his name, young coach, only 40 years old. He's coming back to the NFL. He will be the defensive passing game coordinator for the Broncos. He replaces Jim Leonard in that role. Leonard left to become the defensive coordinator in Buffalo. Livingston had previously worked with Vance Joseph when the two were in Cincinnati together. Vance Joseph is current Broncos defensive coordinator. He was the defensive backs coach for the Bengals in 2014 and 2015. Livingston at the time was a scout and a special teams assistant. He was with the Bengals for 12 seasons, spent the last 2 years as Deion Sanders' only good assistant coach. Let's be real honest. If you've watched Colorado football the last couple of years, if God bless you, you watched Colorado football in 2025. Like, that wasn't a good defense. Imagine that. You lose the Heisman Trophy winner and you get a little worse on defense. But it was also not the defensive train wreck that it was in Deion's first year at CU, where they just got bullied and any team who wanted to could knock them over with a feather. Colorado did get better on defense the last 2 years. Well, year and a half. They got better in the year that they were good. They went to the Alamo Bowl, and they were mostly better because you had Travis Hunter. Without Travis Hunter, things looked a little different. But that was they had a good front seven. They could rush the passer. They weren't just getting overwhelmed, giving up 7 yards a carry every time. They got better on defense. Robert Livingston, I think, knew what he was doing. And I can't say that about anybody else on Deion Sanders' coaching staff, including Deion Sanders. Colorado has already named a replacement for Livingston. Their current linebackers coach, Chris Marve, will be promoted. That's Marve. He'll be promoted and be the new defensive coordinator at Colorado. As for the Broncos, they've had a lot of changes on their staff. They announced yesterday, I don't know if Brendan got to this in his headlines yesterday, Davis Webb is the offensive coordinator for the Broncos. He got a promotion to be the OC, which was basically to keep him away from being hired as anybody else's offensive coordinator. And Sean Payton's giving him the reins. Sean Payton says Davis Webb is going to call the plays. We'll see how long that lasts. I have a hard time believing Sean Payton is just going to give up play calling duties. But maybe he is. Maybe he's turned over a new leaf. So, yeah, a lot happening with the Broncos of late. One last headline to get to. It was announced last night at the State of the Union address that Winnipeg Jets goaltender and hero of the Team USA gold medal hockey game, Connor Hellebuyck, will become just the 5th athlete in history to receive the Presidential Medal of Honor for their performance in an Olympics. Not the 5th athlete of all time. There have been a lot of athletes who've received the Presidential Medal of Honor. President Trump, in particular, has been very fond of giving it to guys he remembers. But Hellebuyck will be the 5th Olympian to receive the award, primarily as a result of their Olympic prowess. They will be receiving it for their feat as an Olympian. The other four, you can sock this away for trivia purposes. Jesse Owens has received the Presidential Medal of Freedom. My mistake. Presidential Medal of Freedom, not the Medal of Honor. I misspoke, and I apologize. The Medal of Freedom went to Jesse Owens. He had to wait a long time for it. Jesse Owens, of course, hero of the 1936 Olympics, had to wait till 1976 to get his. What do you know about American history as it pertained to how we treated people like Jesse Owens in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s? Now it makes a little more sense why I had to wait till 1976. But Jesse Owens has received a Presidential Medal of Freedom, as to have Simone Biles, Megan Rapinoe, and Katie Ledecky. Those were all received under the Biden administration. Biles and Rapinoe received their Medals of Freedom in 2022, Ledecky hers in 2024. It's a joke you used to make, right? When you watch like an Olympic or a international sporting contest. I think everybody made the same joke about back when the United States had a good run in the World Cup. I want to say maybe it was 2010, where their goaltender was Tim Howard. Their goalkeeper, wrong sport. Goalkeeper was Tim Howard. I think everybody made the same joke. Tim Howard should be the Secretary of Defense because he's, defending the net. Well, we don't have a Secretary of Defense anymore. We have a Secretary of War. But Connor Hellebuck will get the next best thing. He'll get the Presidential Medal of Freedom for his primarily for his 41 save performance in the gold medal game, that 2-1 overtime victory over Canada. 20 of the 25 members of Team USA were honored at the State of the Union speech last night. 20 of the 25 members were there in Washington, D.C., I guess, visited the White House, met with the president. It is reported that 3 of those players did not attend the speech or were not seen during the speech. 17 of the 20 were seen. The captain of the team, Austin Matthews of the Toronto Maple Leafs, was not seen in the chamber during the speech. Doesn't mean he wasn't there. Just means nobody saw him. But that happened last night. Part of the, I believe, a record setter, the longest State of the Union speech in history. 1 hour and 48 minutes. You file that one away for trivia purposes as well. We'll take a time out here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, Seth Walder of ESPN has an idea as to who might start week 1 for the Chiefs at quarterback if it's not Patrick Mahomes, and I really like it. We'll tell you who he's thinking of next as we continue on 580 Sports Talk. 538 on 580 Sports Talk. That last headline got me thinking. Connor Hellebuck going to receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Who would be the athlete you'd give the Presidential Medal of Freedom to? If by some accident you ended up the president, I wouldn't want that job for any amount of money. But if by some accident you ended up the president, like what's the movie? Is it Dave, where just some random guy becomes president? If by some accident you ended up the president and you got to give a Presidential Medal of Freedom, that was your award to give, however you saw fit. Like, I'm going to give it to an athlete. Who'd you give it to? Easy answer for me. Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn Lynch would get the Presidential Medal of Freedom for me. Super Bowl champion. Did the Beastquake. Seems to be an incredible teammate and like solid human. Not perfect human, but solid human. Does good things for his community in Oakland. Yeah. Marshawn Lynch would get the Presidential Medal of Freedom from me. Who would you give it to? 785-272-9429 is the text line if you want to hit me up with your responses. The YouTube chat is kind of crashed today. That looks like a YouTube problem, not an us problem. But you can also leave your answer if you're watching on Facebook, WIBW News on Facebook. So there's a chance that Patrick Mahomes doesn't start week 1 for the Kansas City Chiefs. It's a chance that we're all going to kind of just agreed to like kind of talk around a little bit when it comes to projecting how the Chiefs are going to do in 2026. It's not a pleasant thought to think that we got to watch. Look, I watched 3 Chiefs games without Patrick Mahomes playing quarterback. They all sucked. I hated them all. They were not fun. I didn't enjoy it. 0 out of 10. 0 stars. Would not recommend. But real chance we're going to see some more for 2026. Seth Walder of ESPN.com has an article today where he predicts all 32 starting quarterbacks for the 2026 season. And there are 2 teams that file under needing an early season injury stand-in. The Chiefs and the Indianapolis Colts, who are going to be waiting on the return of Daniel Jones. And that's if they do bring him back. He tore his Achilles in December, so there's no chance he's going to be ready for week 1. And the predicted starter that Seth Walder gives for the Chiefs, Marcus Mariota. This is what Walder writes. I imagine the Chiefs would want to be cautious with Mahomes given his importance to the franchise. If that's the case, they'd want a reliable backup who can ideally win a few games while Mahomes finishes up his recovery. I believe Mariota fits the bill. The 32-year-old stood in for Jaden Daniels for 8 starts last season and was capable with a 50.2 QBR. He has a long history being solid, which is essentially what Kansas City needs. A player who can keep the team afloat in Mahomes' absence, but is willing to be a backup and won't be overly expensive. The Chiefs have done the backup quarterback roulette thing for a while now. They've cycled through. Last year was Gardner Minshew, it was Carson Wentz, it was Blaine Gabbert, it was Chad Henne, it was Matt Moore. They've really cycled through guys, and all of those have in common, except maybe Wentz. You could say maybe Wentz and Minshew didn't. But certainly Henne and Moore at their stages in their careers, and Gabbert, I think, too, had accepted that their lot in life was to be a backup. Had understood that that's what they are. I don't know if Wentz was there. He should have been, but I don't know if he was all the way there when he was Mahomes' backup 2 seasons ago. And I don't know if Minshew had all the way accepted that that's, and again, probably should at this point in his career, but I don't know that he'd all the way accepted that as his fate. But I do think the Chiefs very clearly need to go into 2026. They have to add a veteran quarterback. They might even feel like adding 2 for the offseason program. Just, you need arms. You need guys to throw passes. And it's not a ton of draft capital. Like, they'll bring in a UDFA. I would almost guarantee they'll bring in an undrafted free agent quarterback to camp this year. I don't think they'll draft one. And Chris Oladokun's still on hand. But they're going to sign a veteran guy, and it does. It has to be somebody who understands, hey, look, Mahomes is obviously the guy. Don't get too crazy. You're starting, hopefully, no games. But, 1 to 4, probably at the beginning of the year, that's what you're going to do. And I think Mariota makes sense for the Chiefs for two reasons. Number one, he can do some of that RPO stuff that the Chiefs seem to favor in their offense. Stuff I wish they'd get rid of, but it's, as far as I know, it's going to be a part of their offense in 2026. And it would surprise me if they totally scrapped it, even though I think they should. So Mariota's got some comfortability with that. He's also comfortable using his legs. And I think that's valuable for a backup quarterback to be able to have that element. I don't think you want a backup quarterback who's just a statue. If you're gonna spring some plays, you need to do it with somebody who's a little more mobile. And I think Mariota fits the bill. I'll always wonder what would have happened if Mariota got a fair shake as an NFL starting quarterback with like a credible organization. I went to the playoffs, won a playoff game in Tennessee, but they didn't believe in him. And then he's bounced around to teams that weren't any good. And I think at this point, Mariota's probably settled into that second life of a quarterback. Of, you know what? I'm QB2. That is what it is. But I always wonder if there could have been more for him. I thought there could have been. I really liked him coming out of Oregon. But I think that makes a lot of sense. Of the available free agent backup caliber quarterbacks, Mariota to me is good an answer as any of them. I do want to point out this answer, though. There are 4 teams under looking for someone new that Seth Walder writes about. Those are the Browns, the Dolphins, the Vikings, and the Jets. He predicts the Jets make a trade for New Orleans backup Spencer Rattler. Predicts that the Dolphins will splash the cash on Malik Willis. There's a chance Malik Willis gets $30 million a year. Prepare for that now so you don't keel over dead when you see that happen. There's a real chance that happens. And he predicts, this is really out there, the Browns starting Kyler Murray at quarterback. Kyler needs a change of scenery. I do not think he will be the starter for the Cardinals in week 1, which means he'll be elsewhere. Can the Browns afford it? Still got to pay the nasty man. But can they afford to go into a season where their options are either Shedeur Sanders or the nasty man? I don't think they can do that. They got to do something. But the funniest answer is the Minnesota Vikings. Their projected 2026 starter is Kirk Cousins. And oh my God, let that happen. Oh my God, let that come true. I would never be able to stop laughing if the Vikings, who decided, and correctly, look, we're spinning our wheels with old Kirk Cousins. It's done. It's time for a clean break, time for divorce. We're going to move on. We got a high draft pick. We're going to go get a young hot shot. We're going to go get J.J. McCarthy. Bummer. He's hurt. Well, our backup is Sam Darnold. Well, we'll see how that goes. Oh, it went pretty fabulously. Well, Darnold's a free agent, and we really, really like J.J. McCarthy. We're going to let Darnold walk. J.J.'s the guy. Oops, J.J.'s not the guy. J.J. is emphatically not the guy. We got to go back to the Kirk Cousins well. If they went back to their ex, oh, my God. There would be no funnier transaction this offseason than the Vikings reuniting with Kirk Cousins. It needs to happen for comedy's sake. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, sickos only in Boulder tonight. K-State and Colorado. We'll talk about it next. Had a couple of folks throw out answers to my question earlier. If you ended up the president, who would you give the Presidential Medal of Freedom to who was an athlete? It's become fairly common in recent years, see athletes awarded such an honor. Connor Hellebuck will be the 5th Olympian to get it. 5th athlete to get it primarily for their Olympic feats. And he did win a Vezina. I think he won the MVP of the whole NHL last year. He's really good. But that's not why he's getting the President's Medal of Freedom. Had a couple of answers from the text line from 785. Bobby Witt Jr. after a recent award he got. He won the Lou Gehrig Award, which is a great honor that you receive for your contributions and your efforts off the field. After the recent award he got, makes some sense. Also from the 785, Richard Petty, a nominee for the. I'm almost surprised he doesn't have it yet. That would be one I would have thought somebody would have given down the road. If Richard Petty doesn't have the Medal of Freedom. He does. Yeah, does have the Medal of Freedom. He's already got it. 1992. George H.W. Bush gave it to him. That looked like he looks like he did that one on his way out of office after he lost to Clinton that year. Yeah, Richard Petty already has the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Good shout. K-State basketball tonight here on 580 WIBW FM 104.9. It's a late tip, 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock pregame coverage. K-State at Colorado, two of the worst teams in the Big 12, two of the three worst according to KenPom. K-State number 98 in the KenPom. Colorado number 71. So correction, two of the four worst. Oklahoma State number 72. So two of the four worst teams in the KenPom meeting each other tonight. I don't think this is going to be a lot of fun for Kansas State. Not because I think Colorado is awesome. They're not. Colorado's big. Colorado can throw out, like if you remember, I'm going to guess most of you folks haven't watched a lot of Colorado basketball this year. But they're going to be able to throw out some size. They got the kid from Israel, McKaylee, who's 6'9". Sebastian Rancic is 6'11". Bengat Dak is 7 foot. They're going to play two of those three probably together at all times. And K-State's got one tall guy, and Doreen Buka is out tonight. So no real way to match up, and certainly no real way to match up with that out on the perimeter where, like, Rancic can play a little, like, stretch four. So can McKaylee. I think this is just a really bad physical matchup for Kansas State. But we have seen Kansas State's best basketball this year, before and after the firing of Jerome Tang, in games where it was clear that they thought they were playing a team they could beat. Like Utah and Baylor, the games they won, but also games like TCU, who's not real good. And maybe we'll see an effort like that tonight. 7 o'clock pregame, 8 o'clock tip, right here on 580 WIBW. Let's wrap things up after this timeout with a final word, shall we, on this Wednesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Real quick, since I was curious before my final word, I'm a history buff and I should know these things. There are 44 athletes who've received the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Connor Hellebuck will make 44. Gerald Ford, which is appropriate because he's our best athlete president, was the first to award the Medal of Freedom to an athlete. Jesse Owens, 1976, also gave one to Joe DiMaggio. And since then, it looks like every president has given at least one Medal of Honor to a professional athlete. Bill Clinton only did it once. Arthur Ashe. George W. Bush gave out a bunch of them. John Wooden, Muhammad Ali. Barack Obama gave out quite a few. Willie Mays, Michael Jordan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Stan Musial. Donald Trump obviously has given out a bunch. Anyway, that's the history of that award going to athletes. 44 athletes. Maybe I'll memorize them all for a bar trick or something. Final word for me on the program today is that I am now in favor of the Chiefs keeping Trent McDuffie because I don't think you get better by creating a hole on your roster. Chiefs already have enough holes without creating another by trading Trent McDuffie. We're back tomorrow from 3 until 6. My name is Dan Lucero. This was 580 Sports Talk. Good night.